On Network Africa. Voting underway in the Ethiopian city of Hawassa in a referendum that could give a 10th regional state based on the Sidama ethnic group. Police in Zimbabwe used batons, tear gas and water cannon to disperse supporters of the main opposition party in the capital, Harare. While U.S. President Donald Trump extends state of national emergency against Burundi. Welcome to the program. I am Amarachi Ubani. We begin in Ethiopia, where voting is almost over after getting off to a calm start on Wednesday morning with long queues of people seen in the main city, Hawassa. More than 2 million people in what is known as the Sidama zone are voting on whether they want their own regional state within Ethiopia's federal system. This referendum in the south of Ethiopia is being seen as a test of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's abilities to control the forces of ethnic nationalism. The vote comes ahead of a general election scheduled for May next year. Joining us now is Brooke Abdu, and a journalist in Ethiopia. He joins us via Skype. Brooke, thank you for joining us on the program. Talk to us about the turnout at the voting centres today, and of course the mood there. The last time we checked, which was yesterday, people were super excited about participating in this referendum.
Well, until now, people are getting to the voting stations, and more than 2.3 million voters that were registered for this referendum are casting their votes since 6 in the morning. And as the Sidama referendum is the first referendum being held to uphold the constitutional right to form self-administrative states in the country that's granted for any ethnic group, all eyes are on the Sidama referendum, and I can say that it's history in the making for the nation's federalism exercise. People are casting their votes after waiting for hours in lines, and all seem excited that this is happening after frequent attempts to do the same. So the Nobel-winning Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also said that this is an indication of a positive democratic path that the country is taking. So people are exciting in they're in the polling stations casting their votes since 6 in the morning.
And about that excitement, we did see a couple yesterday dancing. Their excitement was at really high levels because of the votes today. And a really historic day in Ethiopia it is. A special referendum could produce a 10th regional state, we understand. Why does Sidama want to be autonomous?
Well, the Sidama referendum is the first of its kind in this country, that it's going to produce the 10th regional state, and that's going to be the member of the federation. And this is happening for the first time since the formation of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. So the Sidama people say that this will bring them economic, political, and social affairs control of their region, and they also say that the statute would give them direct access to the federal budgetary support that's provided to the regional governments by the federal government annually. So they say that this will give them much control on their issues in every aspect. So that's why the Sidama are demanding statehood.
Yeah, and of course, Ethiopia has been in political turmoil for a while now. When are the results expected in, and how soon will they be implemented?
Well, the preliminary results of the referendum are expected to come out tomorrow, starting tomorrow morning, but the final results of the referendum will be announced after a week. So if the votes the yes votes win, that means the Sidama will be the first nation to get a separate statehood using the constitutional right that's going to be the first exercise of that right. since the formation of the federation, that the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. So after the announcement of the results, the next procedure, the next procedure will be the division of assets and the separation, the official separation of the Sidama from the existing regional state, that is the Southern Nations nationalities and People's regional states. So there will be demarcation that's going to happen, and there will be asset division that's expected to happen. But there is no law that clearly says that this must happen within this frame time or this time frame or so on. So the results are expected soon, but the implementation is not clearly known. But most people estimate that it will happen within 2 years.
And according to the United Nations, a surge of long repressed rivalries between Ethiopia's more than 80 ethnic groups have forced more than 2 million people out of their homes. It's also killed hundreds of them. Does the government see the referendum as a possible solution to ending the violence, and is it considering other avenues?
We can't say that the question of Sidama or the referendum can be directly related to this ethnic rivalries that we're seeing in the country. But the Sidama statehood is even said to be a very overdue question that is now being answered by the government through the procedure that is stipulated in the constitution. But the ethnic rivalries that you have said cannot fit into the question of Sidama, even though there have been conflicts of ethnic nature, even related to the question of Sidama. But the question by itself is not an indication of ethnic rivalries in Ethiopia. And to say that the Sidama referendum will bring about a solution for this ethnic rivalries might be a far-fetched solution, I can say, because the Sidama referendum is going to create a single state that's going to be the member of the federal government or the federation. Therefore, we can't actually relate the two issues.
Right. Brooke Abdu, thank you again for speaking with us on Network Africa. Appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you again. Police in Zimbabwe have used batons, tear gas and water cannon to beat up and disperse supporters of the main opposition party in the capital, Harare. They were due to hear a speech by Nelson Chamisa, the leader of the Movement for Democratic Change. The latest police action comes as the opposition accuses President Emmerson Mnangagwa of adopting the same heavy-handed tactics used by his predecessor, Robert Mugabe. On Sunday, Mr. Mnangagwa defended his record, saying his administration was opening up political and media space. Local media says the government appears determined to prevent the opposition gaining political capital from the deepening economic crisis. Meanwhile, China has rejected a statement by the Zimbabwean government that it received only $3.5 million in aid from Beijing last year. A Chinese embassy in Harare issued a statement saying the correct figure was almost 40 times higher. That's $136 million. In response to this, the Information Ministry says the government has noted the query raised and necessary consultations are underway to establish a common accounting position. Last week, Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube appeared to complain that China's aid contribution was much smaller than international donors. Let's talk to our favorite journalist in Zimbabwe, Nigel Nyamatumbo, about this. Nigel, thanks for joining us on Network Africa. What's the government's reason for this crackdown on the opposition? Let's begin with that.
Well, it's really bizarre and difficult to really comprehend why the police would respond in a heavy-handed manner as they did today, just outside the headquarters of the main opposition, the Movement for Democratic Change, led by Nelson Chamisa. What had been clear the past few days was that government was not comfortable, or through its apparatus, its state security apparatus, was not comfortable with Chamisa addressing members of the public and his supporters in what he had said is called a Hope of the Nation address, honor. And he had been advised to change venue, where he had eventually settled for the party headquarters, which unfortunately was marred by scenes of violence, not necessarily by the supporters or those that had come to hear this Hope of the Nation address, but by state security agents, something that is really deplorable, and I think another on goal for President Mnangagwa's administration.
Yeah, and it almost seems like the Zimbabwean military or the security forces are very synonymous with violence. I do remember during the elections last year, an almost a similar occurrence happened on the day of the election. Mnangagwa's supporters and Chamisa supporters clashing in the capital, Harare. But the government is very uncomfortable with the opposition, so we understand he's defended his record, saying that his administration is opening up the political space. What does that mean for President Mnangagwa?
Well, it actually means that he's essentially paying lip service to what the people in Zimbabwe expect of him, to what the people within the region. Only yesterday, the South African government, through its international relations ministry, was highly critical of what is obtaining in Zimbabwe, and particularly made reference to the political contestations that are happening in the country, and why they should be resolved. They made a case that yes, there is the issue of sanctions, which the SADC has already pronounced itself on, but it's not enough for there to just be talk of sanctions going without really talking of a genuine and legitimate political reforms within the country. And that reforms, by an extension, should include allowing the members of the opposition to convene, allowing them to express whatever views they have on what is obtaining within their own country, and closing such spaces is the case that happened does only serve to confirm those that are pessimistic that perhaps Mnangagwa is not different from President Mugabe, and that whatever reforms that he speaks to, particularly in the legal, in the laws of the past, are nothing but attempts to apply lipstick to a frog.
Yeah, and very quickly, Nigel, let's talk about this dispute of aid figures from China. China is not likely to lie about something like this. $136 million is a far cry from $3.5 million in aid that the Zimbabwean government says it has received. Why the confusion?
Yeah, it's really embarrassing. The joke around here in Zimbabwe is that they just forgot to put a one in front of the three. But it's really a case that government should take seriously, because for any investor to come into the country and to invest or partner with government that cannot distinguish between 3 million and 136 million, surely that does not inspire confidence. And it is good that it has come out from the Chinese, and it's good that there is that conversation going. We hope to get to the bottom of it.
Hopefully you will, Nigel. Do stay safe in Harare, though. Thanks again for joining us on Network Africa. You're still watching the program. Still ahead. A house music star turned chef hits high notes with foodies in South Africa. Stay with us for this mouth-watering story.